Hi guys, welcome back. Oh god. Hi guys, welcome back to the podcast. So, I'm filming the intro way before I'm on a call with the guests, so we're gonna mind that. But remember, this podcast is sponsored by TH Management. They are management who help you grow your social media and help you get far, and I'm underneath them, hence why I've been able to do this podcast, etc. They're really supportive. They really care about you as a person. They care more about your mental health and that. So yeah, go and check them out. Their Instagram will be down below. And I'm excited for this week's episode. And I shall see you when I'm with the guest.
I am harrisongunn. I'm 15 years old. I'm a presenter and content creator, I'd say, is what I do. I've been presenting for 4 years now. I started with BAFTA, like the BAFTA Awards, done loads of events, done loads of speaking, and then I also host the It's Good to Talk podcast as well. And yeah, just been doing bits and bobs here and there since, really.
That's quite... Normally I do that, like, right now, people already know about me, so I'm not going to introduce myself because there's literally no point me sitting there saying the same 3 things about my life. But I'm just going to ask you a few questions. As we know, I like to have a bit of a chilled vibe on here, so nothing's really planned. You can talk as much as you want about the questions, you can talk as little details as you want. Everything's up to you. I just sit here and ask the questions.
Perfect.
So, the first one, which I think is quite a good one to kind of start into, is how did you start into the industry and doing your presenting stuff and all that?
So
how did that all start?
The way that I got involved in presenting was, it was never something that I thought, I want to be a presenter. It never really crossed my mind until I came across an advert on some website for the BAFTA Kids Young Presenter Competition. And BAFTA, if people don't know, like the BAFTA Awards, which I'm sure if you asked your parents, they would know what the BAFTA Awards are. Huge award show, and they run a competition every year as part of the BAFTA Kids programme to find some new young presenters, and there's always runners up and then there's a winner, and I was one of the runners up for that competition, and then started working with them, did a couple of events with them. I worked on an event for Disney Channel with them, and I worked on a Nickelodeon event with them as well, which was both amazing, and kind of fell into it through that. It kind of just happened very quickly. And then after that, I realised that it was something that I wanted to do, and I was able to kind of take it into my own hands. I think, as well, when you want a career, you kind of have to find it for yourself and make it for yourself. You can't sit back and let other people find the opportunities for you. So I started a podcast, and that has done well since, but that was kind of my journey into presenting.
Yeah. See, mine's been like yours, like it happened kind of all of a sudden, and it was very accidental. Like, I think I said this before, but I started when I was on Musical.ly because my friend downloaded it and she wanted me to check out her videos. And then the next minute, I know, I'm sitting there making videos, and then it's one thing after the other, and it's like this whole podcast situation. Like, I remember I wanted to do it last year, and I was just sitting there like, but then obviously I was under like my management and that, and they were like, well, why don't you just do it? Like, there was like nothing stopping you in this current moment of time. Yeah, you've got college, yeah, you've got this, but nothing realistically stopping you. So just do it. And then that's when I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do it and see where it goes. Somehow hope for the best. But I'm very thin. So the next question kind of links in with that, really, is, so how did your social media kind of journey start? Did it start from the BAFTAs and doing the presenting side and that, or did that start beforehand?
I never had social media when I started with BAFTA. It was never something that I had, because I was 11 when I applied for the BAFTA competition. So I was young, I didn't really have Instagram. And then I must have got Instagram that year or the following year, and signed up just the same as everybody else, with your friends and stuff like that. And then when I started working with BAFTA, I kind of put more stuff about that on there and put like presenter in my bio and stuff. And then, this time last year, I only had 600 followers. So it's grown so much in a year. It kind of all started last year, really, when the podcast picked up, because you work with someone and you kind of grow through their platform and stuff like that. And as the podcast grows naturally on its own, that transfers back over to your social media. So I kind of I had 4K or maybe 3.5K at the start of this year, and I'm on 6K currently. So this year's been really good so far. It's been amazing. So it's probably the best year that we've had when it comes to the podcast, and we're only 3 months in. It has been crazy. So the social media kind of came as part of it, and then I kind of realised that I enjoyed that, and I enjoyed talking to people and being able to grow a platform, and it's been absolutely crazy these last few months.
Yeah, because I've only had the Instagram account for a year. I think I started it 2019, so nearly come up 2 years. And I literally started it because my friend was like, because she has a YouTube channel, and she was like, and she had like a whole separate Instagram dedicated to that. She was like, you do realise if you did a whole separate Instagram dedicated to your YouTube stuff, you could actually get somewhere, because she was like, start gaining followers because people find out through your Instagram account.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that makes sense, because then you're promoting it somewhere else instead of just on one platform. And then that's how pretty much that one started. I think at the moment I'm on 590 followers, but like last year I was stuck at like 300 for like the whole year. It was like this, and then all of a sudden it just started kind of going up a bit. But it's all mad. I think last year on TikTok was the most I've grown, and I think that's purely down to lockdown and people being at home more.
Yeah,
I think that's generally it.
TikTok was crazy for me. I don't even use it, but I've got just under 11K, which is crazy because I literally don't use TikTok. It's just because people follow you because I work with a load of TikTokers and people know who I am, but I don't even post on there. So that's crazy. And growing on Instagram is, I think, the most important for me, because that's like where the purest and most active audience for me are. So yeah, it's been really good, and I think it does show that when you put hard work into something, you can grow, but it's definitely not where I want to be yet. I'm not there ready to go, oh, okay, got 6K, like I'm done now. Like I'm not at all where I want to get to. So but it's doing really well.
Because you're always working for the next goal, aren't you? I know that from experience. Like I've got 2.4K and I'm like, okay, now I'm working towards 2.5K, and then it's like, oh, but then after that, but it's not the fact of, I think some people can take it as a fact of, oh, you're not really grateful, I put in quotations, for the followers you have, because you're constantly working for the next one. But realistically, you need to kind of keep on working towards something, because if not, 100%. You kind of, like for me anyway, I kind of lose motivation to be able to do it. So that's all kind of thing. This one I'm going to say now, I put these two the wrong way around, to be honest, but the next one was like, how did your podcast start, and like how did the idea for your podcast come, etc. Because I feel like us two have had very different journeys.
I was sat in a chopsticks Chinese restaurant in a shopping centre with my nan, and we were talking about mental health and social media and how we can try and use social media to talk about mental health. And this was way before, mental health was like, everyone talked about it and stuff. This was way before. My nan's a teacher, so she knew all about that kind of stuff. And she was just like, why don't you start some sort of podcast or show or something? And I started just doing it on Instagram and not really knowing what I was doing, and just getting friends on, and had a microphone, but I didn't really have a clue what I was doing. And then last year was when I was like, okay, like I'm going to properly start this. So restarted, renamed it, called it It's Good to Talk, and got my first guest on from January. And then from there, just continued working and looking for guests each time. Obviously, lockdown came around, and then it meant that a lot of people were more free. They were available to do it. So I had some absolutely incredible dream guests come on last year and this year. But, last year it really was crazy, and it picked up so quickly. Then BBC Radio heard about it, and I went on the radio a couple of times talking about it, and did a load of press stuff, and it kind of just went crazy, and now it's really got a name for itself in this industry, which is really nice. I know a lot of big TikTokers and creators know of the podcast, because we show influencers and entertainment people in a positive light, and I think there's such a stigma around it, but actually showing that these people are people, and they still have feelings, they still struggle, they still get stressed and stuff like that, and just having an open, honest interview or conversation. So it kind of started like that, but this year it's dramatically picked up. I mean, we started the year with 9,000 listeners. We're currently about to hit 30,000. So
that's gone up quick.
grown very quickly.
Yeah,
It's a lot of people, but I have worked incredibly hard on it. I spend hours and hours editing them, the audio editing. I put a lot of money into it, you know, getting good microphone and good setup to be able to really bring the best quality. And it takes a lot of time, you know, when these people are saying, oh, can you get this person on the podcast? That can take months to get to, if not years, if at all. You know, there are the amount of people that turn me down, the amount of people that say no, the amount of people that have all these different issues. So I'm so thankful for everyone who says yes, and I think the more it continues to grow, the more I think people will be up for it. But yeah, it's been a long journey, but then again, it's also kind of happened really quickly, the kind of growth of it.
Yeah, gonna say, because like mine was pretty much, so I kind of turned to a lot of people on, like a lot of my people I follow on YouTube and that are people who sit there and talk about mental health a lot. They are the two main ones I watch is Joe Kidney and Luke Cutforth, who are two boys. And then I think Joey started his one called The Happy Times, where he just sit there and just like talk and be like, listen to this if you need something like motivation and things like that. I'm trying to think of some of the words off the top of my head, but that was like the one thing. And then I remember I was talking to Mary at the time, and I was like screenshot it to her, and I was like, oh, like listen to this, like, I listened to it the other day, like it might help you. And then she was like, Charlotte, you like talking to people. She's like, you don't shut up half the time. Why do you just like use it to like some form of good? And I was like, oh yeah. And then she's like, we do a lot about mental health in your social media and that as well, don't you? I was like, well, yeah, to like a certain degree. And she was like, well, why don't you just put the two together? And then the name of it really just came around because I'd never really know, obviously with each episode, I don't really know what's going to happen because I don't really know what the person wants to talk about. So I never really wanted to put like a label onto it, which is why it's called Unidentified, because I'm like you, like everyone has their own journey, everyone has their own struggles and that, and I just wanted it to be a place that, you know, people can see their like favourite creators or their favourite people on there and be like, oh, actually we actually like relate to them more than I actually thought in the beginning. Because I know it's happened to me when I've watched people and I've like then watched them talk about or their struggle with their mental health, then open up about their mental health, and I've gone, oh, actually I relate to them more than I actually thought originally. And I think that's kind of good to kind of break down like the whole stigma around it. Like, I'm not gonna lie, over the past few years social media has become more toxic and like negative, and I know that's the first hand experience because I was quite lucky. I was like, even though I had not quite a big like small big following, but I never really experienced hate, so I never really had to deal with it until last year when obviously everyone was at home and then there was more hate going around. And even in the beginning of this year there's been more hate coming my way, but like now, because of it happened more so last year, I kind of know how to deal with it a little bit better and kind of channel that kind of energy into this, whilst obviously balancing college and everything else, which I think you can relate to a lot with obviously like with school and that, and it's not the most easiest thing.
People talk about mental health for the wrong reasons. Sometimes people see it as, oh, let's do a podcast, let's talk about mental health because, you know, everyone talks about mental health and it's good and then we'll get in the charts. It doesn't work like that. I have struggled with mental health, with my mental health a lot. You know, I've got autism and I've got ADHD. I've got 2 diagnoses of things, which I guess is to do with your mental health. That can be a lot. You know, I really struggle with anxiety. I'm on medication for my ADHD. There's a lot that people don't see behind the scenes, and I think influencers are very dehumanized now. It's very dehumanized. People forget, oh, that's actually a person. I think I've been guilty of that. For example, when I spoke to Anastasia and I was just on FaceTime and I was chatting, I was like, you're human. Like, do you know what I mean? When you actually relate to that person and see them there and see them talking, and you're like, oh, you're no longer just Anastasia off my laptop on YouTube, you're actually a person. And people forget that. And I think if anyone's going to talk about mental health, do it for the right reasons and, you know, say the right things, because people just get into it for the wrong reasons. And it really irritates me.
I've seen that happen a few times, to be fair. I'm not gonna lie. Like,
yeah, exactly. It does happen.
I've been diabetic since the age of 6, so obviously that kind of has an effect to a certain degree, because I've kind of grown up not necessarily being normal, but because obviously all my friends and that would be able to eat what they want when they wanted, and I couldn't really do that without having to inject myself. So for me, I think that kind of kickstart the whole thing of like, I'm on like some of these forums with like different teenagers with diabetes and that, and then it was like, oh, but if I could do this to like a better use or a greater use, then I'd be feeling like I'm doing something right, because everyone was like, oh, like there's so many people on social media, but like none of them, yeah, there's people on there that do talk about having diabetes and that, don't get me wrong, but they don't always talk about the struggling side of it. They just, but I guess that's kind of in a way what people in this industry has been brought up to do, is just show the positives of everything, because social media is just a highlight reel at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly, it is. People don't see. I try and be as honest and transparent on my platform as I can, but then again, I'm not gonna, every time I'm upset about something, I'm not going to put it on my Instagram story, because no one does, you know, no one's expecting anyone to do that. But I think it's, people do forget that I, you know, for example, today I, you know, have to do Instagram stories and stuff like that, but I also then had a COVID test, and then I've got this, and I've got a meeting later, and I had a meeting earlier, and then I've got on someone else's podcast at 8 tonight, and I've got filming at 3, and then I'm filming at 2, and then I've also got a meeting at 4:30, and I am packed each day, every day, and then I've also got friends that I want to see, obviously within guidelines. I've got, you know, school starting on Monday. I've got, you know, I'm hosting 2 podcasts currently. I'm working with a production company. You've constantly got something on you. You know, there's lots of laws and regulations people don't see when it comes to social media. The ASA have been a lot more strict recently on things. If you want to get into influencing, if anyone does, and you are working with any brands, please read up about it or message me, and I will send you the sheet that has information about it, because you can get fined a lot of money for a simple mistake. For example, so I got gifted like this earlier, right? So it comes as a PR package, for example. When I put that on my story, I need to put ad. Yeah. You can't just put gifted, otherwise you get in a lot of trouble. And I only found that out yesterday. Molly May was talking about today. She only found that out
I saw that on the news thing about Molly May, and I was like, I think people don't realise, like, for me, I try and keep it, so my college days are normally Tuesdays, Thursdays, and on Friday I start at 1, and then I also have a job as well, which is Mondays, Wednesdays, Saturday and Sunday. So then I try and keep majority of my evenings, which is why normally I don't film during the daytime, because normally I'm either at work or doing college work. But I try and do majority of the filming at 8 p.m, which is obviously not great for everyone, because everyone else has their own busy schedules and that, so you kind of have to like rejig things and that. But it's a lot to balance, and then I think there just need to be more hours in the day, because like some nights I'm sitting there like DMing people at like stupid o'clock. I was in quite well with everything really, and I think this is kind of like a good kind of maybe ending question, because I don't know if there's any, if you want to ask me anything at any point, please do. But how has like social media affected your mental health? Like, do you reckon it's got worse? Do you reckon it's got better? Do you reckon people need to be a bit more careful? I'm trying to say this in the politest way possible. But what do you reckon, like, how has it affected you?
Social media has positives and negatives. It's given me a career. It brings in opportunities. It can bring in income. It has a lot of positives. But social media on the whole is very toxic and can be very negative for my mental health. The amount of times I would delete Instagram without people even realising, with, you know, before the story expires and people do not know, but I delete it and I get rid of it, or I will, you know, whatever it might be, because it is constantly toxic. When you put yourself forward in these situations like I do, and you're working with these huge influencers, if they're getting any hate, it then brings it to you, because if they don't like them, they're not going to like you. And my DMs sometimes are filled with just vile things, group chats made about me to just slag me off that I'm added to and I can read, and they don't know I'm reading it. People are absolutely horrible, and sometimes I've got, you know, to anyone who wants to create a problem, I honestly would not advise it, because to anyone who has ever sent a horrible message or anything, it is cyberbullying, which is a crime, which is illegal, and you can be fined for. Don't do it. It's not worth it. And luckily, I'm not the kind of person who's going to go and contact the police every time, but I am well within my rights to. And people do not realise that it is illegal and it is a crime, and they will get found out for it. So there's that, and then, you know, get people's opinion. And sometimes if they're being horrible about me and another influencer, or trying to, there's an influencer that I'm very close with that I worked with recently, that this group that was trying to turn us against each other, and was being quite horrible about me and making up a lot of rumours. I actually spoke to the influencer, and they went and spoke to them. People don't realise that we communicate, they don't.
Yeah, I mean, I've only received, I would say, hate-wise, like December last year, I think was the thing. But that's only because I was hosting a blooming TikTok Love Island, so it was kind of going to be guaranteed. It was going to be guaranteed.
I mean, I get some sort of, I would say I get at least 3 hate messages a day. It's about, some are messed up, man. Like, some of them, people will pretend to know where I live and, say that they can see me. I get people who find the school I go to and make threats, and it is, people don't realise how bad it can get. This isn't just about someone saying, oh, you're ugly or whatever. It really is a lot bigger, and at a platform like yours, you're already getting it, but the more you grow, it really does come, and it is bang out of order, and I can't stand it. But it does affect my mental health. There's a lot of times where I will be quite upset about it. Sometimes it does get to me. A lot of the time I can brush it off, but sometimes it does get to me. Sometimes I'm angry, sometimes I'm fuming, but you can't reply because it's just not luckily I've got some friends in this industry that we can kind of talk to each other, and we're there for each other.
Yeah, I'm quite lucky. The majority of majority of my friends I do have, like, I don't have many what I class as like home friends, but majority of my friends I do have are from doing my social media, which obviously I don't regret in the slightest, because at the end of the day it has given me an opportunity to be able to talk out about things that I want to talk about and have a thing. But then it's also the constant thing of, I know this, like, with some people, but it's the fact of, well, if I'm going to say about this, am I going to get cancelled, or am I going to go on the UK TikTok room, because we know what the UK TikTok room's like. If I say about this, is this going to happen, or if I post this, am I going to get hate for this because it's the same as so and so's. And it's always the thing of, you have to kind of switch your brain off from doing it, but you can't always switch your brain off from doing it because it doesn't always happen.
100%. It comes into every aspect of my life. I am so vigilant of everything I do, because when it comes to school, people at school will say things. They'll be like, oh, I'm gonna say this or whatever, and people will do everything they can to cancel you or to just make you feel like rubbish. And it's very easily done now. People believe what they hear straight away, and I don't want to be on any drama channels or anything like that. The one thing I'd say to you is enjoy it whilst you're kind of, because you've got so much potential, and you'll grow so quickly very soon. I know it. While you're at your platform, trust me, enjoy it, because when you grow even more, when you get to 4, 5, 6, 7K, that's when it really becomes something where people really are following everything you do, everything I do, to the point where I went and got Little Moons from Tesco the other day.
I was writing your story, actually,
asking for which Tesco it was and blah 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 blah, and I'm like, I am not giving my location to you. It's not happening. And people have no boundaries, so it's a lot to take in, but I love social media because of what it's brought me. It has brought me some incredible opportunities, but be careful out there on social media, because it is a dangerous and it is a scary place. And
I'd say I'm quite lucky that, apart from, I think, until kind of my whole podcast kind of started, to be honest, I didn't tell any of my friends about having, like, people knew I had TikTok because I post my TikToks on my story, but like, no one really knew that I've had a YouTube channel since 2016. No one knew I had another Instagram account. But then it wasn't until this happened, and then I was like, oh, it's fine, I won't be seeing these people for a while, thinking. But then obviously now we're going back to college, so God knows what it's going to be like when we go back. But then I've had friends that I've not spoken to since secondary. We weren't really friends at secondary either. All of a sudden wanting to be my friend again, just because of the fact of I've got some form of following. I was like, that ain't going to work on me. Like, you could try, but it's not going to work, because I know what your intentions are. Because you didn't...
I get it all the time, I have an incredible amount of reach on my platform because of the people I work with and doing the podcast and the organisations I work with. My insights are coming up to 300,000 a week. It's crazy, and people know that, and people take advantage of the amount of people that want shout outs or stuff like that. And you know, like I'm saying to you, enjoy it while your platform's at this, because when you grow more, it's going to come a lot more. And I am a pushover, or used to be so much of a pushover, and I've had to learn to stand up for myself and say to producers or whoever, like, no, you know, and it is hard to, but you have to set boundaries and you have to be clear about things, because this industry, you will get walked over. If you do not set your boundaries, you will get walked over and you will get pushed and messed around, because a lot of the people that I'm dealing with, especially managers and managements, they are adults. They are all adults. Everyone I'm dealing with is adults. They're older than me and they've got, you know, that above me, but that doesn't give them any right to walk all over me. And unfortunately, it will happen unless you say something. So you have to learn to respect yourself and your own time and your personal life. You know, I'm between, you know, I've got split parents. I'm between my mum and my dad's. I'm, you know, stuff like that. I don't have time to constantly be replying to emails when I'm at my dad's and stuff like that. So just finding boundaries. If you want to get into this industry, know what you're getting yourself in for, because it really is a hell of a ride, especially when it gets going.
Because it's a hell of a ride. Even when you're small, it's a hell of a ride. And the more you grow in that, it's going to become more of a hell of a ride. And like, I'm quite lucky to the sense of, like I've been saying, like majority of my friends I have made from social media, so we all do get each other and we all kind of understand where each other's coming from. But then saying that, it's like I've got, so for example, like Jake, who's been on the podcast before, me and him are friends before we even discussed about the podcast or anything. Like, we've been friends since I think December time, because he went onto the Winter Love Island thing. And the amount of people are now like, oh, so you and Jake aren't friends anymore because, you know, you haven't put him anywhere. I'm like, we still talk. We talk every single day. We still talk. Doesn't mean I'm not friends with that person. It's like my friend who had a YouTube group, they're like, oh, has you and Emily aren't friends anymore because you haven't posted with her for a whole year. We was like, but we haven't been able to post with each other because of Corona. We still talk.
This is the thing. People don't realise that, you know, we communicate, and people think that I do a podcast with people and then that's it. But, you know, like, you know, I had people saying that, you know, oh, me and Amy don't get along, stuff like that. And then a notification of a voice note from Amy come through. I talk to her all the time. People don't realise that I keep in contact with everyone, and I don't know. There's lots of reasons. But yeah, know what you're getting yourself in for. And just please do your research. Like, I found that out last night. Please do your research, because I cannot explain how easy it is for you to get into trouble. I seriously, please everyone, because it's I didn't realise how many laws and regulations were against it. I had to go and change a load of stuff last night. So read up about it. It's not just about being an influencer or being whatever. This is a job. This is a career. There are laws, there are regulations. Please just do your research and enjoy it.
Because I've always tried and said this, like, I don't think many people on the podcast really know this, but I even said to Jack the other day, I was like, oh, like, you don't have to promote the podcast if you don't want to. I'm not going to sit there and be like, you have to promote it. You come on the podcast, you have to promote it. I don't expect that, because I just don't expect it to like, do you know what I mean? I don't sit there and expect people to be like, oh, because on it, I'm going to promote it. I was like, if you don't want to promote it, you don't have to promote it. It's fine. And then Jack was like, well, I'm going to promote it because it's like, you've like thing, and I've come on it and things like that. But I was like, you don't have to if you don't want to. Like, because I think there's another thing, like, divide between like smaller and bigger ones and things like that. But